Damn, son, where'd you find this?
Binary Domain. I've always heard about this game, but never tried it. So as I was going through my Steam library, I was surprised I even owned it. I don't even remember where I got it from, so I was curious as to what kind of game it was. I decided to launch it and try to play it with a controller, but noticed that this game is a garbled mess. Nothing worked properly, at least for the PC port. When I plugged in my controller, the game didn't show the correct button layout, so I thought that's fine, I could work through it. But as I pushed down on the start button, the game was still on the start menu. So I pushed on a few more buttons and got the game to start up on the first mission sequence somehow. As mission starts, the first thing you can do is a tutorial. I decided, yeah, I like to learn the layout, what I can do. The tutorial told me about voice control, and that worked well enough. It soon told me to shoot, so I pushed down the left trigger, and instead the camera tilted upwards. I pushed down on the opposite trigger and it tilted downwards. And then I thought, oh, it has to be like PS3 FPS's where the bumpers are to shoot. But no. I then noticed I couldn't even look around with the thumbsticks. They would only allow me to move forward and back. I eventually got fed up with the control scheme and decided to push down the start button to bring up the menu. But as I pressed on it, I started shooting. I got so confused. I decided to find a fix as to what was happening. I launched the game once again, but this time from the configuration launcher. It turns out all the way at the bottom, you have to manually switch the layout of the buttons. I have no idea whose idea this was, but this is stupid. I did that and then launched the game, and once again the same issues persisted.
Well, understand how to use your radio now?
Yes.
Good answer. Keep it up. Next, let's go over our gear, handling weapons and battle techniques. You can skip this if you don't need it. So you want to go over your gear and stuff or not?
Sure. Yes.
Okay, let's do this, bro. Alright, first shooting. Dan, you see that sign over there?
How do I turn on my light, man?
Carl, what's up?
There we go. I can turn on my light. Okay. Look
Something wrong?
at this garbage. Why? I'm pressing Y. What is there to press?
What's this about? I don't get you.
I press
What?
this,
Me?
it turns. I press this.
Quiet,
It
man.
turns.
I've about had it. What'd you just say?
What do you say?
Shoot that sign.
It doesn't work. It
You'll have a
doesn't.
better chance of hitting
It doesn't
the target
work.
if you get in the firing posture first.
It's so stupid. It's
Yo, it's not funny. Drop it, man. You're draining my will to live.
instead,
Something wrong?
you gotta press this,
Shoot already.
and then this. It's so dumb.
What? Me?
Alright, whatever. I decided to look up a solution and it told me to download a few programs, a few fixes, but nothing worked. I got fed up with trying to fix it and played it on my mouse and keyboard. But holy shit, there were even more problems. So even though I could look around and move, the game had some prominent issues. So as I was doing the tutorial, the game tells me to reload by pressing M. So I thought, okay, M, like on the keyboard. But nope, they instead want you to push on the scroll wheel. Like, what? I spent 20 minutes trying to figure out if something was wrong with my keyboard or if it was a programming issue. That's so stupid. So after you figure out that, you soon notice the mouse accelerates to some crazy speed. So at first I thought I could live through this, but everything seemed harder than it was. And I felt like I was gonna vomit at some point, especially with this camera view. I found a fix for the accelerating where you could disable it with some command prompts from the Steam's launcher. I did that and unfortunately it didn't work. It stayed the exact same. I then found out from the FOV from the game's launcher there's a player's perspective. This affects the way the mouse accelerates, so I changed that and it got way worse. I managed to put it back to default and started to search around a bit more for a fix again. I then found out from the same configuration launcher you can just slow down the mouse speed. So I did that and it finally bloody worked. But I had to put it so low in order just to play the dumb game. This is incredibly stupid design. I'll put down all the links and stuff to help me with the configuration settings in the description, or that'll be on the screen. I don't know, maybe both. Anyway, now I can finally talk about the game. Before I jump into gameplay, I'm gonna quickly do a story synopsis. The year is 2080 AD. The world as we know it is no more. Global warming has caused worldwide flooding, leaving the world mostly uninhabitable. The world needed to rebuild, so two companies set on doing so. An American company called Bergen and a Japanese company named Armada. Both set out on creating robots and AI technology in order to have them be the main labor force. As the years continued, Armada created the first robot, but Bergen gained so much influence that they started to steal technology from Armada. Armada tried to sue Bergen, but ultimately failed, leaving the USA as the world's leading global superpower. In the year 2040 AD, the world was concerned as to what constitutes as a human, so the world set out on creating new Geneva Conventions. One of the laws was Clause 21, the banning of research of robots bypassing as humans. 40 years later, the year 2040 AD, 2 weeks ago, a key worker for Bergen Corporation tried to attack Bergen himself, was soon overwhelmed and instead tore into his flesh. He revealed to everyone what he was, but ultimately he had no idea what he was himself. The media picked up on what this was and started calling these things Hollow Children, as they themselves have no recollection or knowledge of being a Hollow Child. Bergen makes an assumption that Armada was the one who created said Hollow Child, and who would know how many more there are. The IRTA set out finding Armada was actually behind this. They created a Rust Crew, international soldiers gathering for one purpose. You are Dan Marshall, ex-soldier. During his time, he gained the nickname The Survivor. With this, he would propose a new job offer to work for the IRTA. Since then, he's been working with them for 4 years. Alongside Dan is Roy Boateng, aka Big Bo. The two have been working together since they've joined the IRTA. The other Rust Crew members include Fei Li from the People's Republic of China, Charles Gregory and Rachel Townsend from British Secret Services, and the last member, I don't know if I should say this, but I guess I'll be using him in clips, so CN-7 model combat robot aka Kane, aka Best Robot Boy. He comes directly from the French IRTA, who built him from the ground up. With the assembled members, we have our Rust Crew. Every member has their own personality with a lot of backstory, their likes, dislikes, political opinions, and some really interesting questions. However, one of the selling features of this game was the new technical use of voice recognition. And while it works fine, there are times where I would have to repeat myself 2 or 3 times just so the AI can understand me. But going back to the questions, my issue with voice recognition is that the AI can only understand the most basic commands like yes and no. But really, my issue comes down to the fact that the concept of hollow children and global warming seems super interesting. So when I'm asked the question, I wish I could respond the way I would like to. But I can see why this wasn't implemented, because that's impossible. But I feel as though the voice recognition should have been left only for combat, as I would like to know where Dan stands on these issues. I would like to feel a bit more of a connection to his character, because ultimately when responding to questions like what do I think about the economy, is it good, I can only respond with the most basic response. So I feel as though if they remove this and instead replace it with Dan's character traits, I think it would have been a lot better, or even have basic RPG dialogue options. So whatever you choose, there's still a conversation to be had. One interesting aspect of choosing whatever you agree on is that character opinions impact the ending of the game. But the issue with this becomes, in order to have the best ending, you have to be a yes man. You're gonna have to agree with everything someone says, even if it contradicts what you said to another member. While I enjoy the characters and the different personalities, I feel as if I don't really know them. Sometimes they're all different, but they all feel a bit bland, especially when Dan has no other interaction with them outside of agreeing or disagreeing. Additionally, this game allows you to have 2 members with you on missions, and that's cool, so there's replayability. But some missions are clearly intended for you to take another character instead, and in my case that happened a lot. There's a mission where you and your crew need to get across a building, but only Kane can help as he has a grappling hook attached to his arm, with Charlie telling me he told him this. But Kane didn't tell me this, and I took him out on every mission I could. On top of that, the game really wants you to always have Faye as one of the members you go out with, as there's an obvious narrative. So while it's cool that I can choose who I want on my team, I kind of feel like the story structure was done poorly, as I almost never chose Faye. play unless the game forced me to, or until a very certain moment in the story occurred. So it was necessary in the narrative to carry her. And even then the game sort of forces you to like her, as this is their first interaction.
Are already inside the city.
They said there'd be a Chinese squad, too.
File photo doesn't do her justice.
She looks familiar. Reminds me of an actress or someone.
Come on, Bo, you know the only movies you watch are porn. Oh, yeah, right, with the... yeah. Hey, watch this. Excuse me. Hi, I'm Dan, and that is my partner, Bo.
Ni hao.
Ah, the strong and silent type, huh? I like that in a woman.
Maybe if you pair learnt some manners, she might not be so silent.
Rough with the smooth, man. So, this is all China sent, huh? Just one woman?
I am First Lieutenant Fei Li of the People's Liberation Army. My 2 subordinates were killed by security robots on the way here.
Aw, shit, listen. We didn't mean no disrespect.
Hard to believe you're the one they called a survivor.
Well, appearances can be deceiving.
Ain't that special. Just real lucky.
Oh, luck. Well, that's good. Because we could all do with a bit of luck. Because the Japs consider anyone without official ID as an invading hostile. So, we're all in the crosshairs.
Speaking of, sir, we'd better get moving.
Then this is later during the first mission.
Say, Sergeant, this may prove a touch off topic, but are you partial to a tipple?
Oh, okay. He must ask everyone that. He asked me earlier, too.
That
Charlie, focus on the mission.
team building is an essential element of mission cohesion, young lady. Are you all right, Faye?
I'm okay. I can handle this. Impressive. Another amazing feat by the survivor.
It's very polar opposite of what I've just seen. Talking about the story, it starts off very strong with an amazing premise, and originally, in my opinion, you could have easily placed this game as a Ghost in the Shell spin-off, but after a certain event occurs, the game has no interest in telling a psychological story, instead opting out to be a D-grade movie, going nowhere with the most generic story imaginable. Characters change for the worse and never think about the philosophical questions, instead opting out to go shooty bang bang, wishing for change without change. It really is disappointing, as it could have been up there with the greats, but for some reason I felt like the writer was forced to go down this route because the story is so different after halfway through the game. This is evident for the fact that the game has 3 different subplots that really don't go anywhere by the end, and with characters you meet during the game. If I'm to give a score to story, it would have to be a 4 out of 10. It's really good for its first half, but then ultimately goes downhill after one scene where the characters don't act like humans anymore, never questioning or exploring the possibilities of what it truly means to be human. Anyway, I may come back to this story to talk in great detail, but for now, let's talk gameplay. The gameplay is nothing special to me. It's a by the numbers combat shooter, you have gun, you shoot gun, that's it. However, this game did try to be different, so as I said before, this game has voice control, so you can tell the AI teammates to do certain things in action sequences, and they work surprisingly well. The game lets you know that there are a number of commands the AI can do when in combat, and depending on what you say, they can help in a variety of ways, and they all work well, but I've never actually really used them all that much, because the difficulty for the game is almost non-existent. I've played a normal, and I've only died due to the controls. Almost every time I've gone down, the AI will come and help me with med packs, or I'll be able to heal myself. I've never really died, so I'm always playing recklessly. Sometimes when in combat, the AI will be given special commands, and in those cases the voice control is done especially well, and you feel like a real commander when the AI follow through. My only complaint is, again, did this need to be voice controlled? Couldn't this have been a button slowing down time so you can tell the AI what to do? In my opinion, yes, very easily in fact. If Brothers in Arms Hell's Highway can do it, then this game can too. But what this game does get right are the robot enemies. In almost every other game, when you shoot humans or non-humans, they all act the same regardless of where you shoot and what you destroy. This game uses having robots as a strength really well, and depending on where you shoot, you can destroy a part of them, and when you destroy something, the robots react appropriately. Shooting their heads has them shoot anything and everything around them. friend or foe. Destroying the arm they use to hold the guns, they alternate to the other arm. Destroying the legs, they start crawling. And this all accumulates to a very satisfying experience when fighting them. I honestly don't think I've ever experienced something like this before. And I can only hope more games actually implement this, as this is a really cool mechanic. In any case, back to relationships. As I said before, depending on your likeness with the other characters, the ending will be slightly different. And well, combat fits that scene. If you do well in combat, characters react with how amazing you are. But if you're doing badly, they come out on that too. So it's important to do well if you want the best ending. In my case, I never realized this, and so I was getting a mixed bag of emotions. But honestly, just pick the shotgun and you never have to worry about it again. And the AI will be like, wow, senpai, you're amazing. And I'll be like, well, no problem, kawaii. I don't know. Mentioning the shotgun, I should talk about the guns. The game allows you to carry 3 guns, but 2 of those are not changeable. Well, the pistol is, but there's only 2 pistols in the game and you can't even change it unless a certain enemy shows up. So anyway, onto the primary gun, the assault rifle. You are never allowed to change it, and I honestly have no idea why. It acts the same way as every other gun, and it isn't relevant to the story, and it isn't in most cutscenes. The only conclusion I have is because it can do a pulse charge, but that's never mentioned in the story, or why can it do that, how it can do that, how it got it, and so and so. I'm just confused why I'm not allowed to change it. Why can't the other guns do the pulse charge? Why is it Dan's the only one who can? I figured this was meant to be played more into the story but got cut out. But I'm just confused overall. It's a decent gun, there's nothing special about it aside the pulse charge. In any case, that really concludes the guns. They're mostly fine. They're not like Alpha Protocol where the guns are completely awful. Every other gun that's in the game is primarily fine. But what I do need to talk about are these awful vending machines. So as you kill enemies, you gain credits. With these credits, you can then buy things from the vending machines. But here's the catch. If I show you these 2 vending machines, would you believe me if I said they have different items despite having the same model? Well, you should. It's very annoying when I need something specific only to be disappointed when it doesn't have it. It's so silly to me that I can't access everything from one machine. This is especially annoying because the game allows you to buy upgrades for characters, helping them in combat. So when I plan on upgrading a character but can't due to the items never appearing again, it's frustrating because then I have to spend so much time backtracking or hoping one appears. But for the most part, you don't even need to worry about them as you do most of the work anyway. I only did it for characters I like, but it didn't seem to help much, or at least didn't notice it. In the multiplayer, you can control the other characters, so I wish there was a way to implement that into the single player, so you could use other weapons and have more skill variety, and so you would care a lot more about the characters and who you choose in terms of the story. And finally, I need to talk about the bosses. Holy moly and Akara Soli, they're 50-50. Some bosses range from badass to others are pretty mediocre and not terrible. Take the first boss. It's a cool fight. You have to take out his legs by shooting his weak points, whereby it then loses that leg functionality, so it adapts and continues to try to kill you. But then you take the second boss and it's so annoying it's not fun in any way. You have to use a rocket to take the boss down, but then you realize there are a job of robots that keep flying in your way, so you can't just shoot the boss. Instead, these things keep getting in the way, so the rocket keeps knocking onto them. So you have to keep moving around to where it's clear, but you can't move around fast enough as you're dragging a rocket, and it's like, oh my god, your movement is so slow. And the boss is so much faster than you, and is always moving to another place, so by the time you reach it, it's gone. But that's not all, because then the boss shoots on its own rocket, so the screen shakes and Dan keeps falling over with the rocket falling out of his hands. Then when you're out of ammo, you can't just pick up more ammo. Instead, you have to shoot these green robots where they carry the ammo, and you can't just pick it up without a rocket, so they carry the rocket to then pick up the ammo. But because this boss keeps firing down missiles, you keep falling over and losing the rocket. Losing the rocket? This boss is so stupid! And that practically wraps up gameplay. In my opinion, gameplay is an easy 5 out of 10. It has a few major problems that I wish would have been fixed, but the PC version is mostly a mess with its controls and how it was ported. So if you plan on playing this game, try it on an emulator or get it for the 360 or PS3 because it's not worth it on Steam. There's a moment when you control something and the movement was so slow that I wanted to stop because it was so egregious. It actually made me feel incredibly bored. Anyway, we're on to world design and music. The music is so good, it's loud, harsh, accelerating but also mellow, dark and slow. The tempo changes a lot depending on what's happening, and its atmosphere helps to sell the mood the world the characters are in. The soundtrack reminds me a lot of the Ghost in the Shell 995 movie with its tones and themes. And with world design is good, there's lots of areas you cover and it all makes sense on how you get there or why you are there. You're never just thrown into a situation for no reason. The areas you visit are all unique and different, although in some cases I did feel bored because you are literally most of the time in a corridor finding your way through hordes of enemies. And there's not a lot of open-ended areas. You'll get some cover here and there with the game putting you in those situations more often than not. But the game is very quick into changing the scenery, so you don't really notice it all that much. However, the level design itself is very bland. Then there are times where I feel like I've been to certain areas before with reused hallways, lighting and color. Even segments when you're in a car bell are redone maybe 3 times. But then there are times when it's really fun. At one point you're in a train finding your way to the front of the carriage, or another time when you're on jet ski speeding through the sewers. This game also sets a dystopia for Japan that's been depicted before, but has its own flair to it that I wish we could see more of. The game depicts 2 different classes of Japan. It has upper class Japan, then lower class Japan. Lower are the slums, the unlucky few who have no choice but to live here with the flooding. But with upper being the high class, the ones who don't need to worry. And I wish the 2 were parallel with each other, but unfortunately they don't. I wish there were political debates taking place throughout the areas you visit, so the world the characters live in would feel real and with that would give more weight to it, but what was given is almost bare bones. But this is an issue more in the story, but could have been depicted better with world design. Also, there's literally a moment when you visit a sector of the slums that looks almost identical to the scene from Ghost in the Shell 995 and Blade Runner's opening city, or to be exact, Kowloon, the walled city. I think the level design is varied, but the action segments could have been used more sparsely. And with the world itself, it should be more political with the themes itself with its lore. But in any case, it's that time again, I suppose. Story. I'm not going to do a full synopsis like I did for the previous reviews, and so what I'll do is a quick rapid fire of what happens without explanation, just events occurring unless I feel like I'll come into play later on or when it's sort of important. And if there are mistakes, I might just leave them in because this is just a quick rapid fire. Bo and Dan go to Japan. They ride a ship. On board, they go somewhere else. The game transitions to a cutscene where it shows the man go to Bergen and reveal his machine, and he dies. Members of the IRTA get riled up and shoot one of their own, who was also a holo. Their members create a rust crew, and they need to go after Armada. Bo and Dan find a random guy who talks about the world they live in now. Bo and Dan take a wrong turn and meet up with the other members of the rust crew. The crew go to a bar with a busted up robot watching them. The crew is looking for a guy named Mifune. The bartender has no idea, but Dan realizes Mifune hacked into the robot and is watching them. Dan gets a flashback being up a robot. Mifune is hiding in Japan's slums, but the crew meets up with him. They need a way to upper Japan. He offers them jet skis because the city was built using old sewage passageway. They use it and find a way up. When there, they meet up with the French IRTA team, but find out they're all dead outside a robot who is Kane and random guy, don't worry. They need to escape a motorway chase from these 2 random police officers. Kane takes a risk but ends up killing Rando. The crew need to find a shortcut to Armada's headquarters. Kane uses his grappling hook with most of the crew getting across, but as Faye and Dan are riding the grappling hook, the same random police guy shoots the wire, dropping 2 characters onto a train. When they need to reach the front of the train to detach themselves from the rest of the carriages. But when finding their way through the train, Dan almost gets shot, but Faye takes the bullet. Random Gorilla Boss stops them when another random group helps them escape. The 2 groups introduce themselves. Random guy is called Shindo. His group are freedom fighters and his best friend is Yoshiki. Don't worry, he'll come back later. Also, Shindo tells us policeman's name is Kurosawa. Dan finds a room to remove the bullet from Faye's arm and the 2 kiss passionately. The group end up finding a boss somehow, and Yoshiki is found out to be a holo child. Remember Mifune? He dead now, and the group goes straight to Armada's building, but Kurosawa tries to stop them. When the group ends up at Armada's building, no one is around until Kurosawa ambushes them with robots. But the robots get taken over and Armada himself shows up. He wanted Dan and the others to arrive. With this, Kane is disabled and Faye is taken away, with the others getting knocked out. Remember that rando flashback Dan had? Yeah, same flashback occurs with more information. Dan wakes up to a machine scrapyard with Kurosawa and Shindo, all trying to find a way to get out. The group find an elevator, but are met up with hundreds of scrap Yoshiki models, with Shindo staying behind for no reason to fight them. You never see him again. Dan and Kurosawa find the other members of the Rust crew. They mention they found the data they need to expose Armada, but with that, Armada tries to destroy his building and everything with it, and he has every missile in the world active to target on his location. The crew had to find a way to disarm the missiles, so they go to the roof and destroy the giant satellite, disarming every single one. After that, Dan ensures that they have to go save Faye now, but the crew mentions Faye is a holochild to an extent. She's a modified version from the womb of a holochild, giving her real flesh and bones. But the crew don't care and reject her anyway. Dan gets another flashback, but this time the robot he's smashing is Faye. He tries to save her anyway, with the crew disagreeing with his decision. The crew find a random coffin. When opening it, they find a body inside. Scanning the body is Armada's. With that, Armada makes an entrance and explains what's going on. In this section, I'll refer to Armada A as one we know, with Armada B being the person in the casket. Armada B was the real Dr. Armada, with Bergen stealing his life work and ruining him. He had to find a way to get back at him. With desperation, Armada B wanted to prove Bergen wrong. With a fully functioning robot AI, he could think, feel, and act like a human. But because this was against the law, it was his obsession. He had to do it. He had to prove he was one who was robbed of his true genius, and in order to expose Bergen. The way he managed to create a fully fledged AI capable of emotions is due to his suffering being the true essence of the human emotion, both mental and physically. This is what was needed to create an AI who could understand what it means to be a human. He set an AI camera in his office and let it watch his suffering, letting it witness all the emotions a human has, and once it managed to understand everything, it became self-aware. Once Armada realized this, he intended for the world to have witnessed his true genius, but because the AI robot was self-aware, it felt fear for when Armada B would unveil him to the world, it would be destroyed by the IRTA. With that fear, it decided to kill Armada B and took his identity as Armada A, and he created himself a replica of Armada B and created more like him to banish the Geneva Convention from the inside. He also says he only did this so humans can evolve without the need of machines, but also be the ultimate race. With that, Armada and the crew argue about life. Faye makes an entrance, argues against the crew about life, but Charlie mentions it doesn't matter as the RTA gave orders for every Rust crew to hunt down the Hollow Children, including her, and the hybrids. Dan gets upset and shoots Armada. The crew fight Faye with Dan taking her down, but sparing her with the crew thinking she's dead. Just to inform you now, depending on your relationship with the characters, the ending might be slightly different. The crew go after the central AI unit responsible for the Hollow Children, and when they find it, they're about to destroy it, but American reinforcements come down to stop them. But they're not supposed to be here till later, but typical the script makes them bad, and they want the AI for themselves. The crew won't let them have it, but Bo's an agent working for the US Army who was tasked to complete this mission. Faye randomly shows up and takes a sweet time to shoot the commander, and the crew forget they were just fighting her. The commander orders Bo to kill Dan, but Bo betrays the army and is now working to destroy the AI. The commander takes control of his own mech and is about to kill Faye, but Bo sacrifices himself for her. The crew managed to destroy the mech, with Dan destroying the AI, and with the crew watching the commander killing himself, letting everyone here be branded traitors for some reason. Bo and Dan share a sweet moment together, and that's it. The crew forgive Faye for being a hybrid and then let her escape, but also tell her she'll be hunted for the rest of her life. Dan begs her to stay, but she can't. The game then sets up another game wherein Faye is hiding from the world. Bergen argues how and what kind of threat she can be and what is a human, but then gets shut down by she's not human, asking if it really matters anyway. But the president, oh yeah, these guys are the president, they're not the IRTA, what was I talking about before? Says the most ludicrous answer I've heard.
What harm can one woman do?
Mr. Bergen, what happens if another Armada comes along? Only this time, instead of staying underground, the Hollow Children decide we're a threat. If that happens, who do you think they'll look to for a leader? I got a feeling this is not the end.
There's also a special cutscene where it shows Faye and Dan together after a few years. And that's it, that's the game's story. Oh my god, I didn't plan on doing this, it was more of an impulse thing where I wanted to, where I more or less had to. If I had to give story a score, I would give it a 5. At the end of the day, I believe this game is perfectly fine, but it's average at best with gameplay and story. If the story took more risk and explained itself a lot more with its themes, I would have preferred it. And if it had a more thoughtful story by the end. But unfortunately it doesn't, and so I won't be remembering this game at all. This game sets up a sequel, but knowing how the story turned out, I'm glad there isn't one, and I just wish they did flesh out a lot more of the subplots and some of them could have just been removed. Like, okay, you have upper class Japan and you have lower class Japan, but then that's never really like talked about at all outside the part where you literally go to the sewers, you're out of sewers, and they comment about it like one time and then that's it. They never talk about it ever again. With Kurosawa, he's just there. What is the point of Kurosawa? He's just like this rando police guy who's here to stop you in your tracks, but really does nothing throughout the whole of it. And then he finds out the truth, and he's like, "All right, bye," and you never see him again. Then you have the Yoshiki thing with the guy being the Hollow Child, and then seeing the hundreds of him. That's cool. I do enjoy that. But Shindo is like, Yoshiki's my best friend. Oh shit, he's not my best friend anymore because he's a Hollow Child. Let's kill all of them. And then it's also like, why don't the humans ever like question what constitutes as a human? And with what the president says in that one scene, it doesn't make any sense. How can you say a person is a threat to you when you are literally being a threat to them, right? You can't say they're going to fight back if you're retaliating. It doesn't make any sense. Anyway, that's it for me. Take care and see ya.